when I first started the podcast, or shortly after, maybe we had started communicating over a video that you sent me.
Yes.
Now I don't want to give too much away here.
Sure.
But you know, now that you're here and I've watched the video, I would love to hear sort of your breakdown of it. Maybe just tell briefly what the video is and sort of take people through your experience with that night.
Okay. All right. Well, I like how you're just like right in. Let's just do this.
Yeah, we're diving
okay.
in.
So basically, like it's a comedy club in Midtown. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I think anyone who watches the video will know exactly where it is because it's plastered all across the back. So there's like a step and repeat, you know, like the back of a club situation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of a brick wall, they decided to make it a step and repeat where they're like, you will know our name at every moment.
And what is that? When did that become a thing of like, hey, instead of the classic sort of maybe like curtain or brick wall or simple, we are going to plaster our logo all over behind you. Let's make it as distracting as possible.
I don't know, man, because I don't know. I don't think people consider this shit, man. They never do.
Right.
No one ever really goes like, oh, let me take into consideration if we should use bricks or what color curtains we should use. They're just thinking, okay, how do we sucker some people in here? How do we turn and burn the room? How do we get some morons to tell some jokes? And how do we make a bunch of money and screw over a lot of people?
Right.
So that's what that kind of is. But like so I'm at this club and you know, it's known for having a bit of a rough and tumble reputation, you know. They're not like, I mean, I've heard that certain like celebrity comics have shown up and been turned away because they didn't know who they were. Like, you know, like Bill Burr, I think was turned away from there. I think what's the judge from America's Got Talent? Howie Mandel.
Yep.
Howie Mandel. How he was turned away. I mean, I may have forgotten his name, but if I see the guy, I'm like, yeah, of course, bring him on stage immediately. Yeah. But I'm hosting at this club, and it's a packed room. I think it might have been like a Saturday night. You know, I think it's like maybe like a 9 o'clock show, and they're getting all these people in. It's corralled. This is before the coronavirus, so it's like everyone is slammed in, and that's what you want, right?
Right.
Nice and tight. You know, it's the air conditioning, not the best. Fine, we'll deal with it. Ceilings way too high. Whatever. It's all irrelevant. So so I'm hosting, and it's I do. You know, I'm just starting. Hey, how's it going, everybody? And there's this family over to my right, and they just the woman, the mom, she just starts yelling right out the gate. Like we're not even like it's just, hey, how's it going, everybody? And her immediate response is to yell, I want a Stella.
Which already you're like, you have already been overserved somewhere. and they won't stop here.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Ma'am, you just stumbled onto a new place to get real mangled.
Right.
So she starts yelling. She wants to stop. I'm like, ma'am, that is not my job. You clearly have had a few before. That's obvious. But you know what? We'll I'm sure somebody will take your order. But please, if you can, calm down. So then I start talking to in your general hosting stuff, right? I think it's all pretty, it's like a formula at this point. Yeah. You know, you talk to the people a little bit, settle them down, sort of give them an idea as to what they're kind of expecting, then work your way into material. And then now they kind of have an idea of how material is. And then this way, all the comics that get up after that can just go right into material. That's what I think is.
Let me pause for a second. The amount of people that have seemed to have lost that formula, yeah. I don't know when, or they're not teaching it anymore. Because what you described is how I learned to host, how a lot of other comics learned to host. And what people are forgetting is that you're supposed to go into material where they take the first part of that formula where talk to the audience and they go, well, we'll just do that for 10 minutes.
Right.
Well, I don't know when that became like the thing to do for the first comic on stage, but it is a nightmare.
Oh, it's absolutely terrible. You've ruined you've already started off with a bad flow. And the first comic now has the burden of having to do some of that crowd work and then transition half their set. You've burned half their material, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing that I think is worse is when a comic just gets on stage hosting, does straight material the entire time. And it's like, well, this doesn't help anybody. This is now a series of one-man shows.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. That's
so,
the worst.
you know, I'm now talking to the audience and, I'm like, oh, I'm talking, you know, like, oh, where are you from? You know, your general stuff, nothing crazy. Oh, we're from Germany. Oh, it's cool. It's awesome. This lady goes, now, you know, where are you from? Oh, San Francisco. Now the lady in the corner goes, you know, the one who was yelling for Stella goes, we're from Austin, Texas. I'm like, ma'am, nobody asked you. I had zero intentions of talking to you ever again.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I want a Stella a second time. And I'm like, okay. And I go, ma'am, listen, I'm going to be very clear with you right now. If you continue to yell out like this, you're going to get removed. And she just immediately starts screaming again. I want why isn't this fun enough or some bullshit, some horror shit. And I'm like, you know what? Bring them in. And I have like, I don't want to say I have a reputation of like places going, we should keep security nearby. But in this particular place, I think they kind of had an understanding that like, all right, well, he's sort of a guy that's I'm not going to sit here and take bullshit either. Right. I think I've started in New York City, so I don't have like, I'm like, listen, man, I don't want to sit here and deal with all this nonsense. We have security, right? I'm not saying you gotta do anything insane. Just tell them to leave.
Yeah.
But, right. It's a simple request. And the security guy's coming. He's approaching these people, but it's like a mother, a father, and their son. And the son is like this dude. I mean, he's a wide guy. He's a very wide dude. Like you could see it sitting down, like the man, broad shoulders. And you're like, this is a tough son of a bitch. And he goes, no. Don't worry about it. My mom, she'll calm down. My bad. And I'm like, okay, cool. The son recognizes this is wrong. Now we can proceed. Right. So I attempt to work my way into material. She starts screaming, where's my drink? I want my Stella. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. This show. And everybody at this point, even the audience, they don't even have enough time to like me, but the little that they like me, they hate her.
Yes, exactly. Because they've already realized that this lady is ruining their night. And it is not cheap to see a comedy show at this place in New York, really at any place. But, you know, if you're going to a comedy show in New York, you're paying $20 a ticket plus another $40 at the table at least. You know?
Per person in some cases too.
Yes. Yeah.
So security rolls over and trying to get this lady out of here. It's like, ma'am, you got to go. The security guy gently grabs her elbow. Like I'm watching this. I'm on stage. They're not that far. Just like almost helping her up in that
Sounds
sort
like
of
she could have used it. You know?
Right, exactly. Because it seemed clear this lady was going to stumble out anyway. So he's gently trying to lift her up. The son goes, get the fuck off my mom. Shoves the security guy. Now, the security guy is like probably 6'7", and he's a big dude too. So then they start shoving each other back and forth. Now they're kind of going at it. And this is the thing. I'm not going to sit here and defend the castle. Okay. Like a comic is supposed to stay on stage no matter what. I'm like, no, not here. These guys are going to start swinging, and they start swinging. We're talking fists hitting faces. And I'm going, what am I going to add to this? I can't do fight commentary. I'm gonna be like, oh man, okay, Kennedy with a undercut, nice. Okay, guy from Texas, solid right cross. Like I'm not gonna do any of that stuff. I put the mic back in the stand. I just walk off the stage. This woman is approaching the stage, gets on the stage, sits down, and just starts screaming. I don't even understand what the hell's going on. The son and the security guy are fist fighting, just going back and forth. The dad's trying to get in the way. He's no help. The audience is losing their minds. People are clearing out. People are like, what is this? What is happening? This is just not a comedy remotely. And not, I mean, some of them probably had no idea what comedy is to begin anyway, but this, they're sure is not comedy. And they're trying to get the woman out. The others, there's like servers are now getting involved. They're trying to get this woman out. They somehow manage to stop the fight between security and this guy, which is impressive because the dude was a fucking train. They part them apart. I mean, and it's really sad that you have staff, like we're talking servers who have to get in between these two people, and they pry them apart. They get the lady out of the room, and I get back on stage, and I'm like, all right, cool. This is solid. They get the son out, the father out. I'm like, all right, cool. Wow, that was crazy. And then I look over to the entrance room to the show. She starts running back inside. The woman is charging back to the stage. And I go, are you fucking kidding me? Who let her back in? Right. And I put the mic back in the stand. I go, nah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing this. Now she comes back in the room and she's knocking, those plastic drink menus. She's knocking those off the table, the fake candles. She's flipping tables over. People are losing their fucking minds. Right. Meanwhile, there's one guy in the front row who hasn't stopped staring at the stage. Like this is
1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, like this whole thing went around him, like the fist fight, everything. And he's literally just staring at the stage, waiting for the show to start.
Right.
Like this is some sort of pre-show announcement.
Yeah. He's like, I mean, I did pay my money. So
and I'm going to get my show. Right.
Yeah.
So he's just, he's sitting there. The woman gets back on stage. I leave. Then they call the cops. And this place has a reputation of the cops coming. So they weren't quick to show up. They're like, of course, another night with this club and this bullshit. We'll take our time. They get the woman. They're trying to wrangle her out of there. The son runs back in. Security runs back in. More fists are thrown left and right. The father's trying to pry the son off. This guy's not helping at all. And they finally just get all the riffraff out of the room. And you see the couple, the woman is screaming on the tape, "Where's my son? I think somebody yells, he left."
Yeah, right.
So she goes down the stairs. Cops show up impressively 2 seconds later, as if they didn't experience any of that downstairs or see none of that happen. They walk in, they're like, "What's the problem?" We're like, "Those people downstairs, they're attacking security." And they're like, all right, well, they're not here anymore. And we're like, yeah, they left. They're like, all right. And then they leave. And this took probably 50 minutes.
Right.
And this is all going down. And the owner of the club is like, well, all right, well, we'll just get them back in the room. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, we'll still do the show.
The cat's out of the bag,
And I'm
it's going to be hard to capture this audience again.
Yeah, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Just let me go home. Pay me the money and let me go home.
Right.
So they go, yeah, well, so the people pile back in, and I get back on stage, I grab the mic, and I just say into the mic, and I go, is there anybody from Austin?
Yeah.
And that's how the show begins.
Yeah. And it's just that moment probably just releases, because you have to say something. You have to address what has just transpired. So did the rest of the show continue without a hitch?
I mean, the show was amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And I didn't think.
Yeah. That makes
I didn't
sense.
think anything of it, right? Like I was like, wait, I was like, oh man, maybe it was just that funny line as a callback to this lady from Austin. Like, what was it? And instead, a buddy of mine put it best. He goes, you guys all experienced trauma together.
Yes, right. It's like if you all survived a plane crash.
Yeah.
Like only this group of people can know what it's like to survive a plane crash, and you're gonna have this bond forever.
Absolutely. And I was just like, yeah. And it was the best show. Every comic did like half their set, and everyone had a great time. And people, some comics didn't even acknowledge it because the show was just going so smoothly.
Right.
Yeah.
And when what's nice is that one, there is security, but I mean, comedy club security is usually not trained in de-escalation. You know, it's like, please leave. If the answer is no, now it's an issue. You know, there's for the most part, the bouncers at comedy clubs are not, they're not pacifists, let's say.
No, absolutely not. They want to get you out there, and they're very much happy to fight you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're excited.
They're kind of looking for it. Yeah, right. Yeah.
The only difference is the only reason I don't think that they fight comics or audience members is themselves because they're getting paid to not.
Yes,
that's really all they're doing. We're paying them not to fight somebody until they have to fight somebody.
Yeah.
And then it's game on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we're also talking about people that are making, comics, staff, security, bartenders, waitresses. No one's making a killing, right?
No.
So it's not enough money to take this sort of this torture, this abuse, and say, I actually won't react.
Yeah.
I know I know they had a $60 tab. I'm gonna make, if I'm lucky, 15% tip on that, and they're paying with their credit card, so I'm already losing money. Yeah, but I will not be provoked.
Yeah. No. I mean, this security guy, this particular club, hated the confrontation. Mm-hmm. He hated it. He really did hate it. But once it was on, it was game time. Yeah, he was just like, let's do this. And he would just go, it was a madhouse. Yeah. And the video is all on it's like the longest, it's like 5-6 minutes of just pure mayhem. And it's on my Instagram or whatever.
And it's funny, like as a comic, your instincts are so different, I think, from other people, where like you do think like, am I supposed to stay up here? Am I not supposed to stay up here? Do I continue to talk? Where in a normal situation, if you're in a grocery store and a fight breaks out like that, you're probably just going to leave, like
that's such a sad realization. I mean, it's a smart point, but it's such a sad realization because you're like, yeah, I considered hanging out the entire time.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's the job, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
I used to, this was like maybe, I think 5-6 years ago, where I said to another comic friend, I was like, oh man, if the heckler is just too much, I'll just leave. And he's like, you're not going to leave. That's your job. You can't just walk away. And I was like, and I really wanted to believe that at that point, but it's not the case. Yeah. I'm going to fight this person tooth and nail.
Right.
Because it comes with the territory. And man, that's when you put yourself in that position, that's your end of the bargain.
Right. So when you're starting to realize, let's go to where you realize they're not going to be quiet. Is there a part of you that thinks this is going to escalate to a fight, or are you just thinking like, well, they're going to be loud, they're probably going to ruin the show? Can you see this going south at all?
Oh, I mean, I see it. I mean, the south that I saw was what I envisioned was the security guy comes in, lifts her gently by the elbow. The son goes, he'd already admitted that he was at fault before. And then they just leave. And then the show continues on. I didn't expect this woman to come back in here like she was trying to clear the Royal Rumble. Just not slapping tables, slapping candles off the walls. She sat on the stage for some odd ass reason. Didn't even grab the microphone. Just sat on the stage.
Yeah.
So
it's such mayhem in that moment where like people almost look to you because you were on stage, you had the microphone to sort of solve this problem, and or give them some sort of guidance. And it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm not trained in crisis, like situations. I don't have this background.
Yeah, no, at that point, you're like, what do you want from me? Like, there's nothing. All I have are jokes, and that's it. And sometimes those don't work.
Yeah,
So
right.
you think I got anything else? You think that I'm just going, if these jokes don't work, we could talk about life. We can really get philosophy going and maybe figure out a couple things. No, that's it. I just take the beating and then I leave.
Yeah, exactly. And especially as a host where it's like the most thankless job on the show, and then you
Mhm.
have this on top of it. And and it's like if the show doesn't go well, there's still probably somebody that's like, well, the host didn't have a great set. And you're
Yeah.
like, but did you see what happened?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's sometimes I'll like this particular club, I've read the reviews, right? Like
yeah.
I'll just read the reviews from time to time. And you'll, like for a show that that you were on, you know, and it's just because it was like recent enough. And they'll be like, oh, this one guy was funny. Everybody else sucked. And I was like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
hey, man. Like, you
Yeah.
don't need to just highlight the person who was funny. You don't need to take shots at the rest of us.
God, that's the worst. There's such that feeling of like lining up for like the comedy mug shot after where you're all lined up in the doorway or the hall as people are leaving, and you just have to watch people go past you and not make eye contact or look at the person next to you and be like, "We loved you.
Yeah.
Hey, you were up
Yeah.
there." You know?
I hate that so damn much. I've tried to I remember doing it early on and now I'm like,
Mhm.
no, I'm never. I get why comedians just hide out in the green room. I understand
Right.
that more now than ever. If you're selling stuff, yeah, I get it. You gotta do that. But to sit there in that kind of competition, that weird competition, and that one comic who gets the praise and then
Right.
looks at you like, huh? You see that? And it's like, what do we do with that? Like, I
Right.
can't, neither one of us can pay our bills with somebody saying you were my favorite.
Yeah, right. And it's also it's uncomfortable for everybody because the comic that they have, praised now has to have they leave and now they have to just stand next to you and be like, I mean, it was just I actually didn't even do that well. Like they have to sort of downplay it for
Mhm.
the good of the team,
Right. Of course. Of course.
It's such a strange thing. The connection that you can have to an audience on stage while you're on stage can be so strong, and the minute you get off stage it's gone. It
Yeah.
really does. Like, we're complete strangers.
100%. And you know what's ever like perform and then like you get back to the bar area or whatever and you put on a jacket or something and you just do the slightest change and you're like, it makes sense why Clark Kent was able to hide as Superman. It totally does. Like these people walk right by you and they're like, man, that guy was funny. Where is he? He's like, I'm right here. I've been here the entire time.
Yeah. Oh my God. There is not a worse feeling, I think, than trying to sell stuff after a show and having people walk past you and not acknowledge you because they don't want to buy things. Which,
Yeah.
fine, that's fine. But it's also like, we just shared this moment in there.
Yeah.
At least acknowledge that I exist. Could you do that?
Yeah, man. I think it's when you got to sell shit. I just started selling like my album
Yeah.
and like I have like those things after the show. And it's just the saddest thing when they just they can't look at you and you just got to be like, God damn, let me just sell. I really wish wasn't in this position to have to forcibly stand there and try to hawk these albums. But it's like, I could also use the money. No.
Yeah, exactly. Cause you're like, if you're not huge, I mean, I'm talking huge, like Sebastian Maniscalco, the
Right.
money isn't great. No matter
Yeah.
like where you're at in this, until you're there, the money's not great. So you're always like, well, if I sell 5 t-shirts, that covers, breakfast today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you're looking at all these little things, and then you have to go out there, put your life on the line, and
Right.
just have people pretend that you're not even standing there.
Yeah. Like there's no one, you'll never see that at like an Olympic sport,
Right.
You'll never see somebody do the relay race. And then afterwards they're just winded going, you want to buy some shirts? Like,
Right.
Because they take care of those people who are running those relay races. But when you do comedy, I think at this level where I'm at, where it's just like, I'll occasionally headline, I mostly feature, And then you kind of just you take what you get and then try to make up the difference. And because you love it so much, you're like, well, I'll keep doing this.
Yeah, you get to that point where you're like, I don't want to say no to certain things. Man. And I have to, like, you know, if I keep doing this, if I keep playing this club at this spot, maybe they move me up one more. Maybe I get an extra night, you know. And so you're always trying to just squeeze it, make it work, shave a penny here.
Yeah, you know?
Oh my God.
You said something about, like, you know, just taking that gig, and it's just like, I just think about, there was this gig in Queens, and I was like, it's my fault, man. It's my fault that I'm taking these gigs. I don't blame anybody other than me, but when you need the money, you need the money. That's just what it is, right? And I used to do a casino gig in Queens, and I mean, it was an absolute nightmare. Like, the place was, you get there and you're performing in the center of the casino, and you're on top of like a miniature stage, and you're standing on top of it, and the stage is surrounded by the bar. And behind the stage that you're on is surrounded by TVs that are all on.
Right. And I mean, it is everything you don't want.
Oh, you want to know what makes it even worse? Behind me was a flat screen that was probably 300 inches across.
Oh my God.
Playing on. Of course, on. They're not going to shut that off. No.
If you own one of those, you're never turning it off.
Of course not. It was playing not one, but 2 pay-per-views in split screen style.
God.
But I needed the money. So it's kind of like, because this is the thing. You started outside of New York City, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I remember you hearing that. And so it's just like, you could kind of, do you go back home?
I'll go home every once in a while. Yeah.
And you do some shows there?
Yeah. Like when I first moved here, that was like a good confidence booster. Like maybe every 3 or 4 months, you know, especially when you first move here, you're getting nothing.
Right.
So you have to go home and you're like, yeah, I'll do your bar show when I'm home. And you're like, can I do 20 minutes? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And here's $70. I'm like, we're back.
Yeah.
You know?
I say that, like, if you are a comic who didn't start here, like, you come to this city with a bag of self-esteem chips. Yeah. And then you're just spending it all out here in the city. And then by the time you go back home for like Thanksgiving or whatever, and it's just like, you come back and you pull that crank and it's 777s, you're killing it. People are like, this guy, he went to New York City and he's a monster now.
Yeah, right.
And you're just like, and then you collect your bag of self-esteem chips and you come back to New York City and you're like, all right, let's spend it all over again.
Yeah, I can stay here a couple more months.
You know? Yeah. But when you start in New York City, you don't have that. Like, I don't have a place that I can go. And part of me is jealous of guys like you, gals who've started elsewhere, where you're just like, oh my God, you could at least go back home. And those places are, people have said to other New York comics, like, oh man, I wish I started in New York City. It's like, no. What are you, crazy? Like, the cities that you're from, these smaller cities, they're like zoos.
Yeah.
You know, you're in captivity. You're fed your meals. It's good. Enjoy it. Really soak it all in. Because when you come to New York City, this is straight jungle, man.
Right. That's the, you know, I remember like a couple comics asked, like, I'm thinking about making the move after I was here. And I was like, you better soak everything you can out of the place that you're in before you do this. Become like the best comic in whatever town you live in, work every show to where you can't work them again, and then do it, because you are going to be you want to be riding high. You know, because it's gonna come down. That hot air balloon is coming down.
They're shooting a bazooka right through that thing. Coming down hard. No, it's not. I've said that to a lot of people. Some people are like, listen, I don't know, man. maybe not the best. Just get close. Just get close to the best in your
Yes.
town.
Right.
Something,
Yeah.
because it's a lot. It's worse here. But on the other hand, like I have a lot more places where I can come get money,
Yeah. Right.
because I've been here, I've started here, and this was one of those situations. This casino was one of those circumstances.
Right.
And I did the gig, and it was just, I mean, what do you expect? How do you expect a gig where you've got like a 300-inch flat screen, 8 small TVs playing, and you're in a casino? Where the casino's the least troubling part of the whole equation.
Yeah, because casino gigs, like, they're usually just like, oh my God, it's like, well, maybe I'll get a room, maybe I get a breakfast voucher,
Right.
I'm gonna be performing in a room that isn't built for comedy, and everyone's gonna be over 70,
Easily.
yeah. But so when you add all those extra things onto a bad show, you're like, man, there's no chance I win.
Yeah, no.
Chance.
I walked in there going, this is going to be a losing battle. I need the $100.
Right.
And I was like, all right. And the gig was terrible, but a manageable terrible. And this is what I got to admit to you, that that really just kind of sucked at the time. I went back.
Yeah, right. Of course.
I did it. I did it a second time.
Yeah.
And
you have to.
Yeah, of course. Cause it was like, this is bad, but manageable bad. And the second time, I mean, they found a way, man. They found a way to make it difficult. They did it. There was a Manny Pacquiao fight playing on one end, and then a UFC fight on the other of the flat screen. So, I mean, we're talking, it's almost like the person who organized the show was like, you know what? Not tough enough. Let's make it worse. Let's just make it.
They're just trying to break comics.
Yeah, that's all it really feels like. So I'm doing it. I'm on the show the second time, and now I'm getting heckled, like full on heckled, because I opened up with, I'm from Queens, and some lady stood up, drunk as hell, goes, I'm from Brooklyn, fuck Queens. And I was like, this isn't this isn't necessary. Yeah. It's not, if you don't need to do this, this whole beef is over. And we start going back and forth. And at one point I'm like, ma'am, I live in Brooklyn now. Let's keep the peace. In fact, if you want, I'll drive you home after the show. Just I'm pleading with her. And she goes for a second to think about it. And then I come to my senses and I go, and then I just say into the mic, I go, just let me know what women's shelter you live at.
Oh my God. What a
And
line.
then she starts running to the stage. They start holding her back. The show, I think, gets cut by like a good 45 minutes. And that's the last time they had comedy there.
Yeah, that's probably for the best, though. You really fell on the sword for all the other future comics that were going to have to go there and just feel horrible.
Yeah, I mean, other people asked me about the show. They're like, wait, it's $100 in Queens, and I was like, no, man, go to your part-time job. Ask for 4 hours, okay? Yes. You're gonna be fine. You don't need this.
Yeah, there are other ways, to make $100.
It's not that, and that's the thing that was the thing that I learned after that, was like, I can just go back to work.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not the money it's not the way I want to make the money. Would I like to be like, oh, you're a comedian, I made it through comedy, I made all my money through comedy? It's like, no, sometimes it's just like, all right, I'll do this side gig. And I don't have to get into an interborough match with some woman who is repping Brooklyn so hard she needs to bum rush the stage.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Oh my God. I always love to ask this before we get out of here. What's after a bad show, whether it be the show you talked about at the beginning or that one, what's like the thing you like to do that brings you back to sort of reality? Is there like a place you like to go, a food you eat, a comic that you talk to? What's the thing you're like, that was bad, I got to do this immediately so I can feel better?
Oh man, for me, it's bad eating. It's bad. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure someone else has said that too. I'm sure it's calling up comics, of course. and just telling them about the nightmare gig, you know, because no one outside of comedy is going to get it. No one's going to, you know, like I tell my girlfriend, she's gonna be like, oh, baby, I'm so sorry. That sounds terrible. You know, she's trying to, but I'm like, no. You need to understand when I put this woman in her place, you know, she's not going to understand any of that. She's like, so you were yelling at a woman and she was
yelling at a woman. Well,
Yeah.
It sounds like she might've had a reason to be mad.
Right, exactly. Like all of a sudden it's some sort of gender issue that I'm like, no, I'm not like saying this. I'm saying she's a bitch. And I'm not saying all.
Yeah.
So it's that. It's waffle fries, man. It's
Oh,
mozzarella
really?
It's
Nice.
give
You're
me
an apps guy. You like the apps.
give me the mixed platter of all. Give me the chicken tenders. Give me all those things. The potato skins. Throw them all. Fry them all. Bring them in front of me. I want the multicolored little ramekins of different sauces. The ranch, the honey mustard, the barbecue, the ketchup, the French fries on the side of that. The giant Diet Coke, as if it's gonna make a difference.
Yeah.
Give me that shit. I will sit there at a diner, talk to some friends, talk to some comic buddies, rehash the night.
Man, that is so. I can smell it. I can smell because you're like, I have earned this. I have calorically no, but mentally yes. Like I have 100% earned everything I'm about to put in my face.
Oh, right. The only exercise I did was walk to the stage and back. But yeah, no, I was absolutely. I'm going to consume 5,000 calories of fried goodness.
Yeah. Man, God, I love this. This is just so, when you talk to like comics that have had everybody has such a different path, but every path has so many different, similar stopping points, like rest stops, you know, where you're like,
oh yeah,
God, you've been there, you've eaten at that place, you know. It's the best. You have an album out. Tell people where they can find it.
Sure. It's you can find it everywhere. It's all in all the streaming services. You could buy it on Bandcamp, which would be awesome. I think that's a good cut there too. It's called Draw 4, which is, you know, off the Uno card, and also my current draw. So it's a little double on top. It's actually a triple because we actually drew a 4 on the album cover. Just a little something, you know?
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
And where can people find you?
Everything that I do, website, Instagram, Twitter, it's all day KCA.
Okay. That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I can't thank you enough for doing this. This was great.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Collin. This was fantastic.
Right on.